Let's start this one-on-one podcast, Vladimir. So,
Yeah, let's do that.
so let's do it. I mean, it's 9 o'clock here in Central United States. What time is it in Russia? 5 o'clock? Is that
5
right?
p.m. Yeah, the first time I feel kind of excited. I mean, every time when I wake up at 3 a.m. to have a conversation, it feels always like sleepy and yeah, I regularly feel kind of sleepy and drowsy. But now it like I'm in full power.
Full power,
Yeah,
Vladimir.
yeah.
Yeah, because usually
It
we
should.
have the philosophy club meetings at like in the middle of the night for you. It's like you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to have these
Yeah,
meetings with
and
us.
then it's always hard to fall back asleep.
I
Like
imagine, yeah.
I try, but sometimes like the last after the last meeting, I was just falling for 3 hours and without sleep. So I just tried to fall asleep, but I couldn't. Eventually, I got up and went doing my stuff.
Well, wait, sorry.
What's
Uh,
that?
yeah. So why were you having trouble falling back asleep? You
I
think
don't know. I just think and I can't,
just
can't relax. Yeah,
just too many ideas.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine.
So
Um,
I propose to talk about philosophy, like
yeah, let's do it.
trying to figure out what it is, and I'm personally interested like in your view of philosophy, how you came to study it and what motivates you, like how do you understand philosophy in like in general.
Right. For me, I think it's a difficult question, like because I do think about it. Like what is philosophy, right? Because really the when I think about what philosophy is, really my first thought is that I don't know what philosophy is. It's this nebulous concept for me. Like I don't really know what it is. I have some ideas, but um I don't really have a clear answer. So for me, like the first time I came in contact with philosophy in a more or less serious way, um, was when I was 15 and I started high
Hmm,
school. This
pretty
was
early.
in it was in Lisbon and in Portugal, and I hadn't really thought about philosophy before that. Like I think I was always like philosophically oriented, because
Hmm.
I'm more of a like abstract thinker in some ways. Um, but I hadn't really thought about philosophy specifically, and I didn't really like most of my classes either in school. So philosophy was from the beginning was my favorite class in high school.
How you studied philosophy in high school?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I started in high school studying like taking this class, and my teacher was very good. She was probably I would say in high school she was the best teacher for me, like from my perspective, she was my favorite teacher. She was pretty
Hmm.
hard, she was a tough woman, but like she didn't really take any shit from students, but at the same time she wasn't mean, she was interested in philosophy and she wanted us to learn stuff, but it wasn't very academic either. It wasn't That's probably why I liked it. It wasn't so much that we had to study stuff and memorize it. She wanted us to think about it mostly, you know
Did you have some discussions there, like trying to figure out some
exactly.
concepts?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it was the first class I've ever had, and I loved it. And then further on in my life, I would have some classes like that. In college, when I went to university later on in England, in Leeds, um, but I'll talk about that next. But yeah, I did have that formative classes. But so basically, all my classes up until that moment had been, you had all the desks pointing at the teacher, right, and the teacher talks. There was All my classes in my life had been like that. And then she
Uh-huh.
told us to make a circle with our desks. I still remember, and we were like, what is like is this woman a lunatic? Like what is she really the teacher? Because we had 10 years of experience of that had never happened. So it was one of those moments that humans go a little bit crazy because, you know, like everything that you have done, you know, like it's a weird moment. Like this is not a class. But then we realized it was a fun class and it was a real class. It was a serious class, but we're just supposed to talk to each other instead of just listening to the teacher, you know. And I loved it, and I loved it. And then the second time I I had anything to do with philosophy was when I went to university in Leeds, in England, the University of Leeds, and I studied philosophy. I studied philosophy and political science.
Mhm.
So that was my second experience with it. And at that point, I still didn't know exactly what philosophy was, but I liked it.
Was it
Um,
kind of modern I mean, did you read books, or like what do you mean exactly by studying?
mm,
Like,
Um, it wasn't actually super different from my experience in high school. It was just more advanced because my experience in high school was already like fairly advanced for being high school. Because like I said, she was a good teacher and she was like modern thinking. But no, what we did was it was a good system. It was we would basically we had lectures on philosophical topics, and
mhm,
then we discussed them in what they call seminars, which were classes of basically discussion classes in which
mhm.
we discussed the topics. And you know, it was the teacher was the mediator of the discussions, and then we had quite a bit of reading to do, and we had to write papers on it and the occasional test, but it was mostly papers.
Or was there some sort of competition between like you students and you
No,
know,
I don't think there was
oh,
competition.
collaboration? Like,
It,
no,
there, yeah, there wasn't any cooperation either. I think it was mostly just, I mean, in class you cooperated, I guess, or you competed, but at the end of the day, the as far as like grades went, it was really about the papers, and it was a more of a solitary thing. Like you would do it at home, you know, you would write the
mhm.
papers at home, and you try to write good papers so you could get a good grade, and that was mostly how it went.
Did they
Um,
allow some creative? I mean, did they allow some creativity when you pick up your own topics and start thinking about what you really want to understand instead of just, going through the formal process by studying?
Yeah, I think that is maybe what I didn't like so much. I think they do allow for a degree of creativity, but I don't know. Like I didn't quite like I it was all right, but I didn't like the so because when you study philosophy at university, my impression was that you're really it's not so much about philosophy itself. It's about like the history of philosophy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you study literature, you're not really studying literature, you know, right? You're studying like the history of literature, right? You're studying what other people wrote. And when I think of philosophy, for me, it's really mostly about thinking about things for myself
Mm-hmm.
and discussing with other people. Like I think it's interesting to read philosophy, but it's not. I in my mind, philosophy is more like what you know what you read in the dialogues of Plato. You know, people get together and they talk about things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that is a little bit more of to me what I find interesting in philosophy is the just the personal journey of someone who's like going through these ideas, you know, and so much more than reading what other people wrote before.
Mm-hmm. For me, it was kind of different. So I didn't study philosophy in school, but I read like tons of books. Just, you know, I wasn't a voracious reader when I was studied in school. I actually hated reading. So, in Russia, they start teach you from like very early age to read Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Turgenev, and when you are 10 years old, it's almost impossible to understand anything what's written there. So I developed some hatred to classical writers in early age, and then going through school, I didn't care about literature. I didn't care about language. It's like it was out of my, interests. But
Mhm.
later, somehow I came to, it was it was a really long story. So first, I read Castaneda. I mentioned previously when we discussed, I guess the last time. And
Yeah.
Castaneda basically was writing about, you know, will and power and like the warrior path and how you uh, organize your behavior, self-control, getting rid of self-importance, being like kind of hmm, just perceiving the reality in kind of shamanic magician way. But it basically was like poetry for me. Like you read most of it, I guess, wasn't real. Like Castaneda made it up, but it inspired me a lot in terms of like self-discipline, motivation to study, to learn. And later, I don't know how. I never been in library, but after a year, I got to the library and took a fat book by Aristotle. It was also about politics, ethics, politics, rhetoric, poetry, and probably something else, like 1,000 pages. And I read it and I was so surprised. Like I was thinking, wow, Aristotle, like, he was so smart, and it was such amazing thing to read.
Smart guy.
But yeah, but on the other side, it was so like it wasn't smartness like we consider smart. He wasn't like genius for me. He was like very simple man explaining and seem like almost like me, like myself. So I perceive him like a friend who talks to me
Yeah,
about.
that's what I feel like when I read Plato as well, So like I want to hang out with these people, So that's why I
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
dialogues.
But at the same time, I was surprised why he was so famous, like throughout these ages. I mean, like he writes simply, and I thought I could write the same way. So and then I started trying to write, and oh no, I can't write at all. It's impossible. And there was some kind of mystical experience. I was working as a seller. I was in a store, and there was a day a woman, like a drunk woman, came to the store, and she wanted to sell something. That time I didn't know what she wanted to sell, but she had a bag, and she asked like everybody in the store, just buy this. And eventually I had to get rid of her. So then I came to her and said, like, woman, please go out of here. And she said, no, please buy this. It's just 50 rubles. It's just like one bucks. And I said, like, you are not allowed to sell anything here. It's like our store. Just get out. And she, no, please buy. And she was like, like really drunk and old. And eventually she said the word books, and it kind of triggered my mind. Like when she said books, I instantly like, okay, let's see what's there. And she opened her bag, and there was like 10 volumes of Saltykov-Shchedrin. And Saltykov-Shchedrin is one of the also famous writers. I guess he is not so well known in West, but in Russia he is like, we study him at school as well. And I didn't want to read anything. I just oh, that's 50 rubles, like nothing. I can take these books and put them on my shelf in the room, just like an embellishment. And I took these books, put them home. And after half a year, like I had free time, like a lot of free time. And somehow I decided, okay, let's just see what's written there. Let's just try to read it. And I started reading it, and I was so up. Like for 2 months, I read 10 volumes, like
Wow.
day after day for 5, 10, like all the time. Basically, when I wasn't busy with
Wow.
work, I was reading, and it transformed like the whole my perception of reality, everything. I started, like, I quit smoking, I quit drinking, I quit everything. Started like studying language, studying, trying to figure out what's going on in this kind of psychological, philosophical world. And for a couple of years, it's actually not even the beginning of the story. So for a couple of years, I tried to find something similar. So it was, as you taste something extremely, delightful, like some fruit or some cake or whatever.
Yeah.
And then maybe Dostoevsky wrote like this. What if I read Dostoevsky or Tolstoy? And I took like 10 volumes of Tolstoy, 10 volumes of Dostoevsky, and I couldn't get the same pleasure, the same experience. It was kind of, it was similar, but not the same. It didn't motivate me as Saltykov didn't motivate me, and like it didn't change anything much in my like perception. And for a couple of years, I tried to find something I couldn't find, and I read poetry, like basically Russian like classical works, almost everything. And later, 2011, I discovered like this library which we have in our city. It's called after our Russian famous critic Belinsky. He's completely unknown in West, like very few people even know him. But he was in the beginning of this development of Russian literature. So like all these Dostoevsky, for example, he tried to publish his first books in Belinsky journals. And Belinsky like first accepted him, but then they had conflict and he refused him, and Dostoevsky got his own way. But library is called after Belinsky, and I decided like, who was that guy Belinsky? Like I want to know why the library is named after him. And I took 3 volumes of Belinsky, and it was like the second experience which I had with Saltykov. Almost the same, like powerful ideas, so clear. So he simultaneously had kind of humor, sense of humor, and also like whatever he wrote, it was so strong. It had so strong effect on me that I believed in any word he said. Basically, it's like like somebody like God, something like this. Yeah, and then I was, but at that time I also was writing my journal. So and I tried to improve writing, and I wanted to write like him, and I started studying his biography, and I learned that Belinsky was obsessed with Hegel. Hegel, like famous German philosopher. They lived like Belinsky basically started writing at 1815 or 1820. And Hegel at that time, he already was finishing his career. I mean, he died at 1831 from cholera. And I
31.
decided to
He died 31.
Hegel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hegel died 1831. Yeah, from cholera.
Oh, 1831. Okay.
Yeah, he stayed in Berlin. He was a professor. So this story was Schopenhauer and Hegel. Schopenhauer moved to Frankfurt am Main, and Hegel stayed and died from cholera. But anyway, the idea was like I wanted to write like Belinsky. I started like studying his biography, and I learned that he was obsessed with Hegel, and he studied Hegel for the first period of his life. And I decided, okay, I'll take like, and in our library there was like 15 volumes of Hegel, maybe not 15, maybe 12. I took them all, brought home, and just got through. And and in my case, I haven't studied philosophy. I mean, I didn't study arguments and trying to understand all this. I basically intuitively read everything.
Yeah.
If I don't understand, I just continue reading until like 10 books or 12 books are finished. And then I try to think about what I read.
That's studying, that's studying. I mean, you're reading.
But it's like it's kind of studying. So if you ask me after I read the books, I probably wouldn't tell you much. I mean, I don't try to remember anything. I just trying to focus as much attention as I can on the book and just intuitively absorb the information.
Yeah,
but it's almost the same as studying languages. For example, I haven't memorized lots of like my way of studying languages. I try to get as much information as possible without without trying to understand everything, to remember, to if I kind of trust my mind, have trust to my mind. So if I remember something, it must be natural way. So instead of memorizing, but I like memorizing poetry also, but it's like another deal. And after this, Hegel, like I was under his influence for almost a year. In 2012, and I was, it was so strange for me. There was at that time I watched lectures about psychology. It's a course of lecture from Moscow State University, Valery Petukhov. 55 lectures, every lecture for 2 hours. And he mentioned Kant in these lectures. I remember this moment. And I was, what, Kant? Like, are you talking about Kant? You haven't heard about Hegel. Hegel was like the greatest philosopher, the best of the best. And I was like kind of, trying to put him down, like in my own mind.
Yeah.
But and Kant, Hegel also criticized Kant. And for me, it was kind of, offense. I don't know how to express it better. But after that, at 2012, I discovered Schopenhauer, and this was like Schopenhauer criticized Hegel and called him like old woman, like thief, like just the whore, philosophical whore, whatever. Like so, what you call my like lovely philosopher these names, and I was so so unhappy with that. At first, I developed hatred towards Schopenhauer. I was like, this is like very evil man.
Yeah.
But then I started reading him, and then I discovered these ideas about free will, like you know,
Yeah,
academic.
Schopenhauer is the most like he's like the roguish philosopher, right? He's very badly behaved
Yeah,
in the
like
way that
among
he writes,
philosophers,
like
yeah.
probably more than anybody else.
Yeah, but he has his own reasons. I mean, with Hegel, he arranged lectures at the same time, and Hegel has like 200 students, almost 200 students at every meeting. And Schopenhauer came around. He wasn't a philosopher. He was like merchant basically. But then he studied philosophy on his own and decided that he knew everything. And he came to university and like he wrote a dissertation on root for like forgot its name. I know in Russian, but I don't know how to translate it properly in English. But anyway, so he wrote dissertation, defended it, came to university, arranged his lectures at the same time with Hegel, and only 5 people came to his lectures. Like everybody ignored him, and he
His five
started
his five
and
brains. Okay.
and he started cursing Hegel, saying that this is an old one. This like this is not philosophy. This is bullshit, and only Kant was a real philosopher.
Yeah.
And I start like again. I was curious. Oh, okay, let's read Kant. After Hegel, I didn't want to read Kant. After Hegel, I was like Kant. It's outdated. It's like bullshit. It's stupid. But then I read Kant. Started like this. Some people suggested me to read Nietzsche. I remember this almost the same time, and I was thinking, oh, Nietzsche. It's like who's that? I don't like poet. Some that spoke Zarathustra. Like what the hell is that? I'm not gonna waste my time on. I'm gonna read Kant, Schopenhauer. But later, like in a couple of years, I also discovered Nietzsche and realized like all this German. Basically, I would say that most of it was like German philosophy from Kant, Hegel, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, probably some political philosophy like Marxism also, and Russian classical literature. There's two, and they kind of, they're kind of they contradict each other. So in Russian literature, this direction, Belinsky, there was another few guys, Dobrolyubov, Pisarev, they basically were social democrats, and they wanted to create like this Russian revolution basically was developed on their ideas, on the basis of their ideas. And most of them were Westerners. They
Oh,
read
wow.
German philosophers as well.
Yeah.
And but they were collectivists. So in Russian literature, they basically proposed that we all should unite under some ideas. We all should be society, society, society. But Germans, especially Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, they were mostly individualists. So they didn't be like Schopenhauer cursed all the time, like herd, crowd, whatever. Like he hated people, hated like almost everybody. But he was so funny and he was so convincing that when you read him, like his arguments are so clear. Like so you can like if you try to argue with Schopenhauer, good luck. Just, well, you might do that, but if you read like if you read everything that he writes, it's very hard. But Nietzsche again later it was even more serious. So eventually, it's like I was reading for 5 years, like books, 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 and simultaneously trying to write journal just to maintain like daily thinking. At least half an hour a day I spent trying to put my thoughts, what was going on, what I'm thinking about, how it makes me feel. Yeah, and
That's awesome.
and eventually I came to the point where just writing and reading became so like I couldn't read anything in Russian. So whenever I open a book, I just what's the trivial, I can't read it, I can't take it. It's not interesting. I understand, like I read one sentence and I basically know what's going to happen in the next like few chapters, or or maybe even in the whole book. And yeah, and it led me to studying English basically because I wanted something new, some new experience. And in English, like two languages, second language, it's like almost new birth, like new personality. I basically may read stupid literature in English and I take it as something like fresh and new, and
Yeah.
it's really amazing. I guess I want to reach the same level in English and then change the language, go to Chinese or or German or something else. So And for me, yeah, I eventually came to the idea, Schopenhauer brought me to Buddhism. So studying Buddhism, like on both on practical and theoretical level. And in Buddhism, what was there? There was some idea, and just I forgot it.
It's
I
okay.
probably it'll came up later. I'll tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was something related to Buddhism. Oh yeah, okay, I remember. So it's about not like you try to suppress your thoughts basically. So the idea is like on East they practice like meditation, trying to not think and just perceive what's going on, trying to be present, trying to be with the lines with your feelings. And for me, I try in Castaneda actually, when I started reading, Castaneda was also talking about like shutting down your inner dialogue. That's basically the purpose. So as soon as you stop thinking, that's cool. And I tried to do that like for many years. And when I started studying English, I realized how to shut down my Russian, my Russian wandering brain. This chatter in the scholars. Uh,
Yeah,
Alan
no,
Watts
it's a
calls it.
very interesting intellectual journey that you had. It's certainly like very interesting. So
Yeah,
so now you're in the English phase of your journey.
yeah. I want to just basically, read maybe 100 books.
Well, what are you gonna do next after English? Are you gonna go to a different language, or are you just gonna
Yeah,
stick
exactly.
around?
I know. I want to like I'm working on this community, and I actually wanted to talk with you about this idea of community. Like
Yeah,
you're also working on something like this. So you try to
yeah,
organize some people who are passionate about philosophy, about studying,
yeah,
to learn together, to grow together. And I'm basically doing the same, just different places. But I guess we're both doing it on the internet, since the internet is kind of new space, cyberspace, and
yeah.
it's
And we both started in person, right? Like you're still doing some of your stuff in person, right?
yeah,
Yeah, but now, yeah, I mean, I wasn't really doing anything on the internet before the pandemic started, and then it was like, okay, maybe we can have like a Zoom meeting or something like that. Well, it's not. I guess it's not entirely true because we had a Facebook chat, and
mm-hmm.
we organized the meetings on Facebook, but as far as the conversation goes, I think Zoom was really the first time we had a meaningful conversation on the internet that wasn't in person, because like Facebook chats are not like any sort of chat is not for the most part. I don't think it really works in order to have like good discussions. Like you can't have good discussions in a chat of some sort.
Yeah, probably it helps to organize, just keep people tuned. But in terms of conversation, right, it's almost impossible to have a conversation in chat. But
Yeah,
yeah, Zoom and YouTube, just everything is free. Such a great opportunity. Just you
yeah.
don't need to pay anything. Just
No,
go.
Zoom is great because you can have a conversation as if you were in person. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it still
You're
feels a little bit artificial because you don't like.
well, yeah,
There's different atmosphere whenever I come to my club, like here on the local level. There's always emotionally different. Like I perceive everything what's going on in a different way. But essentially, it's the same thing. So you basically talk to people, you try to listen, try to share your
yeah.
ideas.
I mean, it's approximate. Yeah, it's an approximate experience. It's not exactly the same experience, but at the same time, it does allow for some advantages because I had this problem that there are some problems like of organizing these meetings in person. One problem is that I had too many people.
Hmm.
And when you have too many people, it's hard to have a structure. Like
Right.
you can't have a conversation with too many people, and then it was impossible. After a while, after like I could have a conversation for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then like more people would show up, and I couldn't really have a good conversation the rest of the night, because there was like too many people. And people also, I think the only way it works is like if you have 10 people on a table, like you have to listen to someone speak carefully, and let them speak.
Hmm.
And then you kind of like take turns, but it has to be very formally structured. And that's not something that I was able to do very very often. Like I even I had this like let me get it. Give me 1 second. I'll show it to you
Yeah.
because I
Okay.
think you're
Sure.
gonna find this funny. Give me 10 seconds.
Okay.
That's great. So
What's
look at
that?
this. I bought Socrates. This is like the
Socrates. Oh,
the
yeah, it
Soc-
looks like Socrates. Sure.
yeah, the Socrates. I call him baby Socrates. Now
Hmm.
he's like Sophia's buddy, Sophia's toy.
Hmm.
Sophia's like my baby daughter, and so
I
basically
feel
I
like
would I
wisdom. Sophia, wisdom.
well yeah exactly like yeah to me yeah if it was gonna be a girl her name would be Sophia for sure. Um, and basically I would hand baby Socrates to people. When you had baby Socrates, you could speak, and then
Yeah,
you had
exactly.
to
I did the same in real life conversations, but I didn't have Socrates. I had just ball, and we were sitting in the room and basically throwing the ball at each other. And who has
well
a ball,
yeah
this
it's the
person
same
must
thing.
speak. And there was like 20 people at the same time, and
Yeah.
I think it's easier to organize a conversation when you are in a room because no, it's you sense better what's going on when you may stop one person and give another person to say something. But
True, but it wasn't working for me. Like it might be just because you're like a better organizer, but
yeah, no, it's like we would just talk about simple things. We don't talk about philosophy or just language. So our purpose is quite different.
yeah.
And for me, just giving people just a little time, like 1 minute or even 20 seconds to say something, it's enough. And to see like if there are like 4 or 5 people who really want to speak, my goal is kind of make them talk and discuss and make everybody just listen.
Just
Probably
listen.
asking sometimes to add something to the conversation. But basically, it's more on focusing, as you said, focusing attention and trying to understand how people like what they're talking about and how you may relate to it, how you may make them probably argue with
Yeah,
each
so
other.
for me, it oftentimes it didn't really work. So what we did was in every meeting after a while we would split up, and we have like
Hmm.
small groups, and then
Hmm.
we would talk in the small groups, and then yeah, it was good. I mean, it was a pretty successful. Like people did it and they liked it, and it was something that we did quite often. And we'll probably start doing it again after this whole thing goes away to some extent. But I think that now, like in the current format, I like it better in terms of like a discussion, because it's
Hmm.
we have fewer people, uh, and we can and it's very like consistent as well. We usually have about the same people showing up every week, yeah, I think we have better conversations because there aren't that many people.
Hmm.
So that's an advantage, and another advantage is that we can connect with people from all over the world as well. It's not limited to the people that are in one place, right? You can have people, you can have people that are in different places come together, and very easily. So I like that as well, and also the fact that we're building like a community and worldwide, and the fact that these things are recorded, so and they have an audience. So I really like that aspect of it, because we're creating something, right?
It's
It's
like
not
performance, right?
Yeah, it's like a performance. It's also something
As
that you're creating, right? So
yeah,
it's not just something that will disappear after you leave the coffee shop.
I actually like your idea, which you proposed on chat about making Plato's dialogues. like
Yeah.
playing the roles. So everybody just had to say some certain lines and basically play the dialogue. That
Yeah.
sounds that sounds very curious and cool. I'd like to be part of it.
We'll do it.
And
We'll do
I
it.
also think this whole idea with the coordinates also, like, imagine that after, if the internet is around in the next 1,000 years, we may just do something like real dialogues, like real philosophical dialogues, so reach this level where we are going to create some cyber academia when we just talk and trying to understand the nature of reality ourselves, the most important things which are there.
Well,
What do you know?
it's that's yeah, that's what I'm interested in, because like the technology, it's interesting because really what when you see like the way philosophy started with Plato writing his dialogues, now we're able to do that in real time on like something like Zoom and record the conversation on YouTube, you
I
know.
guess I guess if Plato could record his dialogues, it wouldn't be so interesting. Maybe this
True,
intrigue that his talk is written so carefully arranged.
true.
It's
Yes,
Yeah. If
that
we if
that's a
we
good
seen
point.
Plato now, like on YouTube, or like Plato's dialogues, Socrates
Yeah.
talking, just it, and with information now I see it. So whenever you create whatever you create, just it becomes useless so fast. I mean, before you may just write a book and it may, it may grow in popularity for years and, decades, maybe hundreds of years. But now it seems like people don't want to read anything written like 10 years ago. It seems already like outdated or even ancient.
Yeah,
And
because we live in a time that there's a lot of things going on. There's like a lot of content of all sorts. So it's very difficult for something to be like valuable and cherished by people. It's a very complex. It's good because we have lots of opportunities, but at the same time, um, in a sense, because there are so many opportunities for so many people, there's a lot of competition, right, for things being cherished by a number of people. It's very, very, very difficult. And it's also interesting because the things that are popular are not necessarily things that are valuable. Some things, like for example, I really like Joe Rogan's podcast. That's kind of
mhm.
the model for what I want to do here, like what we're doing today, just sitting and talking. I don't know if you listen to Joe Rogan's
Oh,
podcast.
I listen, but I don't like it. I mean,
Okay. Yeah,
I,
but
I
I like
listen
I
I
like that
listen to
format.
Lex Friedman podcast. If you heard this guy, Lex
No, I
Friedman.
haven't. Yeah, I'm sure
He
there are
actually
many other interesting. I
he
I
actually
first
he
yeah.
actually was on Joe Rogan a few times,
Well,
and
that's okay.
he's a researcher from MIT, like artificial intelligence researcher. And
Oh,
he started. He's also Russian. I mean, he uh,
that's
he came to America at early age, not early, maybe at like 10 years old. I don't know exactly when,
okay.
but he has Russian background. His father, some physicist, and yeah, and he also, like, now he has 1 million subscribers also, and he, like, Joe Rogan is a model for him as well.
Yeah.
And
No, yeah, I like this idea that you get together with people and you have a conversation. I think that's a cool model. But I was saying, like, not necessarily like the stuff that is popular is not necessarily good.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like like you have those like Paul brothers, Jake Paul and Logan Paul on YouTube, for
No,
example.
no, no, never heard.
Oh, it's like they're one of like they're massive YouTube stars. They're like
Hmm.
they have like millions of subscribers, but it's
Like,
like it's
you.
complete trash though. It's like
Uh-huh,
complete
uh-huh.
human trash. And I mean there are many examples of those.
I've studied a little bit, this PewDiePie, the most
Yeah,
famous.
PewDiePie is another example of just human
Yeah,
trash.
yeah, and there was another guy, Mr. Beast. Like,
Yeah, there's lots of
and there,
stuff like that, which is yeah, I mean, what's
uh,
popular is not necessarily, valuable. But I mean, yeah, that's another, I guess, another topic altogether. That's
popularity, fame. We discussed recently fame, like,
yeah.
fame. the concept of fame, why some things are famous. Exactly this question, like some things which are of lesser value, but they are still famous and everybody like them and people pay attention. And some, like, some things. I know one philosopher which I really admire on YouTube. Wes Cecil. He
Hmm.
has a great course. Like for me, it's one of the best American philosopher whom I found. I found him quite recently, like a year ago, and
Yeah.
basically I watched almost like 70% of his content, and he started uploading videos in 2012. He basically reads a lecture once a week or once a month, and his lectures are about language, different languages. Like he has series of lectures on almost every ancient language, like Latin,
Nice.
Greek, Assyrian,
Yeah.
modern languages, French, German, English, Russian, uh, philosophers. He takes almost every philosopher and try to make, and he's so funny. Like, if you just watch a lecture on Nietzsche, I guess you'll laugh. It'll make your day. Wes Cecil. So, and he has just 20,000 subscribers. It's almost nothing. But the quality of his
Yeah,
lectures is just,
it's not a lot. Yeah, I mean it's
and
something. 20,000 is not. I mean, I wish I had 20,000, right? Because we're at 36 right now. But
yeah, but it's like he's doing it for
a
nine
long
years,
a long
nine
time.
years.
Yeah, yeah,
And some people like, you know like Sam Harris, for example, or Jordan Peterson, who are, well, they're great by the way, but like in my sense, there's certainly some value in their content, but still, they, well, just my opinion, but I don't like them as much as I like, for example, Wes Cecil, and they
hmm,
have a million subscribers,
yeah,
just a
yeah.
couple
Those
of
are
millions, and
yeah. They're
uh,
like the YouTube kings.
yeah,
Sim Harris and
Tim
Jordan
Harris.
Peterson, Joe Rogan. Yeah, those are some of the
But
most
Jordan
popular.
Peterson, actually, I dedicated a lot of attention, like watching them. I watched Maps of Meaning, the whole course 3 times, and we watched it here in our group. So I had, like, I we had we watched these lectures once a week for an hour, just studying language. So I brought them. We watched them on TV, and then we discussed it for an hour. This Maps of Meaning last year.
That's cool.
Yeah, and also I watched his personality and his transformation. But recently I started noticing, like, when he involved in these arguments, left versus right, and his idea of chaos and order. I guess he was pretty much influenced by what happened during 20th century, like World War II and Nazism, and he always criticized like Nazism, these ideas. But in the same time, like this is almost the same pattern. I've read Mein Kampf a long time ago, and Hitler criticizes Marxists all the time. He says like Marxists are like the
Yeah,
worst thing, and basically his influence was spread partly because he just found this enemy and tried to focus on it and say that this
exactly.
is
Yeah,
like this is what we need to fight against. And Jordan Peterson does exactly the same.
he does exactly the same. True. Yeah, I noticed
And
that as well. Yeah, and it's very toxic. Like Jordan Peterson is extremely toxic. Like I don't mind like a lot of the things that he says. I think he's an interesting guy. I'm like you, but
mhm,
I think it's kind of like this wave. He created a very toxic wave. Like I noticed like people like his followers are extremely like
their followers are just,
toxic people.
yeah,
Like I don't know if it's because he did it or it's because it's turned it's in its own thing, regardless of his actual
yeah. I guess it was
will.
predetermined.
Yeah, it was predetermined in some
Like,
some sense. Yeah, but
oh,
I mean, it
like,
happens, right? Like, I'm sure Jesus Christ, not that I want to compare Jordan Peterson to Jesus Christ, but what I want to like the point that I want to make is that movements tend to take their own
yeah, of
way,
course,
like
yeah,
their own course, exactly. Like Christianity, and I'm a Christian, but like the Inquisition phase of Christianity wasn't the
hmm
best version of Christianity. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure Jesus Christ really intended that version of Christianity to ever exist.
yeah.
Um,
As soon as you like bring some idea or to the masses, it just gets always like not the same thing which was originally
Yes,
intended.
sometimes it
So
becomes its own thing. So that's
yeah.
why I'm saying, I don't know if Jordan Peterson intended for things to become the way they have become.
Yeah, but I basically watched his lectures before he got famous. I actually discovered him 2016 in November of 2016. So I told you before I couldn't understand language. I just watched, just listened to and tried to catch some words, some phrases which I could understand. And then later on, I started watching his courses. And 2017 in May, he got famous after this B16 like there was in Senate, there was a meeting about transgender, about pronouns this like Z, whatever they call them.
Yeah.
And I basically stopped following him after that. So I still continued watching his lectures, and I basically followed back. So he uploaded new materials, like new videos on YouTube, but I watched videos which he recorded 2016, 2015. So just
No, yeah,
basically
he has interesting ideas for sure. I agree.
courses of lectures. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think, yeah, I mean, it kind of like reminds me of something that I've watched recently. And that has really made me want to like watch some more stuff on YouTube about like old philosophers and stuff. There's this, I don't know if you've maybe seen it actually, because I posted on the Minnesota Philosophy Club thing.
Bertrand Russell.
The Bertrand Russell.
I've read them last year. Principles of Mathematics.
But watch that video that I posted. I don't know if I posted both videos. I watched a couple of videos which are conversations with him. One is very short. The other one is like half an hour.
I probably watched it even before. Like I remember watching like Yoon, another guy, Skinner. This famous behaviorist Skinner. I mean,
Yeah, but
B.F. Skinner,
basically,
Bertrand Russell.
yeah. So
Yeah,
basically, there's one thing that Bertrand Russell says that I thought it was brilliant. Well, a lot of what he says is brilliant, but this one thing in particular in the video, I thought it really struck me as like something that is like extremely like powerful truth. Like I thought it was so enlightening, and it's a very simple idea actually. He was talking about Marxism, and he was notable critic of Marxism, and he said something to the effect that the problem with Marxism is that it comes from a very unkind place. Philosophies that actually have a good impact in the world tend to be kind philosophies. So when you come from an unkind place, that usually deteriorates into something quite nasty. And and he said, because if you look at Marxism and Marx, really, the whole idea behind it that Marx was putting forward was that he wanted the good of the people, the good of the proletariat, but that is really not the underlying will of Marxism. Like what he really wanted was not the good of the people. What he really wanted was the misery of the bourgeois,
yeah. It's like Jordan
of the
Peterson
bourgeois
also.
people,
Yeah,
of the
Jordan Peterson also
the
says this.
merchant class, the more wealthy class.
Well, I
And
guess
that's kind of true, that I don't know
I
if
think
that's true or not. I mean, Bertrand Russell is way smarter and, more wise than me, but wiser than me, but
I think we can judge Marx. I mean, most of what we know about him is just through the interpretations, right? I read Marx Capital, like the first volume of Capital, and tried to read the second one, but I wasn't probably ready. It was like 8 years ago, and for me, like, well, it's basically it was hard reading. I mean, like
it's yeah, it's
technical
very hard.
terms and lots of statistics. But I also read some stories about Marx written like in a pro-Marxist, pro-Marxist, whatever,
Yeah.
pro-Marxist.
No, there's
Uh,
much out
yeah,
there. Yeah.
and they present them as really kind guys. Like he studied many languages. He was working like passionately on he studied Shakespeare. He studied lots of different philosophers, and they with Engels they wanted, like, you can say that they just wanted to misery for bourgeois. They certainly hated the order, right? Because everybody was basically, before, people was thinking about some uh, dignity or virtue. Or, and in literature, like it's actually what you see if you go back and reading 18th century, 17th century, before this industrial eras began, people were mostly focused on something like something divine, some noble things. But in industrial era, everything started, you know, uh, digressing to this money, money, money. Like everything you need just money, working, all this like
Yeah.
all these things. And Marx, well, he definitely hated it and he wanted to change something, but the way how he did it and what he wrote and how he wanted to, maybe he was wrong in something, maybe he was right in something again. But this whole movement, well, I don't know. Like for me, as I said, I try to like to go and read both extremes. So if I read Marx, and simultaneously I read Nietzsche. So they basically like
Well,
Nietzsche say
yeah.
the hell with the crowd. Like everybody is just go and become a
Well, Nietzsche,
Superman.
and this is coming from someone who really likes Nietzsche. Nietzsche is my favorite philosopher after Plato. But
And
Nietzsche,
they are like in a direct opposition to
yeah, I
each
know,
other, right?
I know, but I like both. What can I say?
Yeah.
So Nietzsche, even though I really like Nietzsche, I do think that he came from an unkind place
Okay.
to some extent. So
No, he
that,
was a moralist, by the way. He proclaimed himself as an immortalist. Have you
yeah.
heard? Have you read Ecce Homo?
I've read quite a bit of Nietzsche, but I haven't read like full books except for a couple. I haven't read that one.
Ecce
Like
Homo. It's like the last kind of autobiographical book where he
yeah.
says like,
Oh yeah, it's
"Why,
his last one. Yeah.
why am I so wise? Why am I so smart?
Well, yeah, he was
Like I'm a
full of himself. Yeah.
yeah." But he was already almost crazy. It was
Well, he was
18,
not
18.
almost
It
crazy.
was
He
18.
was at that point. He was probably crazy already.
It was 1889 when this book, and it was unfinished. It was published later when he was already in a mental hospital.
Yeah, that one he was probably already crazy or very close to it.
Yeah, I think I disagree with you here. So I think Nietzsche was like he pretended that he like this bad person, but in deep inside he was actually a good man. I mean,
Well, I don't think that he was necessarily a bad person, and I'm not sure that's what Bertrand Russell was saying. Maybe it was. I don't know what he was like. I
no,
can't
what you see, it's
talk
like say,
talk for
you're
him.
talking about intentions, right? It
Yes,
comes
but what I'm
from
thinking
some
about is
place from
certain,
hatred.
yeah, like a tone, like a tone.
Yeah,
Like Nietzsche was very
yeah.
aggressive. He was his philosophy was
Well,
very aggressive.
to some degree, yes,
Yeah,
but
to some degree, certainly. I mean, but so speaking in general terms, yeah, I think that it's true that this is not true for all philosophy. This is true for philosophy that attends that is its intention is to have some sort of application in the world, right? And when you have philosophy that wants to have some sort of application in the world, yeah, I do think that that's true. We should it certainly should come from a place of kindness towards our fellow men. Like it's much better if you want to do good than if you want to if you come from a place of resentment you know
like
uh,
Schopenhauer.
yeah, well, anything that comes from a place of resentment, I'm now fully on the Bertrand Russell camp that, if it comes from a place of resentment, that's fine as long as it's not the kind of philosophy that you want to apply to the world in
Yeah, I
general.
think all emotions must be present, but the harmony between them, that's what's really most important thing. So sometimes anger is necessary, sometimes even resent. Well, not necessarily. Like when you are overwhelmed by resentment, right? It's not a
Yeah.
good thing.
When you're
But
bitter, if you
yeah,
if you have a
but
bitter
then there is
philosophy, you're
when
going
there
to
is
create a bitter reality.
yeah, but when there is injustice and you perceive it and it's for you, it's like certain injustice. You see it, you understand it, and you know that it's like only you who can understand it, and you try to put forward some let's say ideas of justice, but nobody listens to you, and you become more and more bitter, and eventually you create something like antichrist or whatever Nietzsche wrote there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there must be some balance between emotions, and you have to understand yourself first of all. Like Nietzsche, I guess he was one of the greatest psychologists in terms of understanding himself, what he was doing, how he was doing that,
No, I mean,
his
he was a brilliant guy. I
his
mean, he
feelings.
was a genius, but he was also, I mean, he was a very bitter person. But you know, He was a brilliant guy. He was a
Yeah,
poet, philosopher.
yeah. This Bertrand Russell, I want to again recommend Wes Cecil. So he has a lecture on Bertrand Russell too, and it's like even most probably even more amusing than lecture on Nietzsche. Like all this series of I guess it was like just Germans or thinkers. I don't remember exactly the category, but you'll find like Wes Cecil, Cecil. So this is the name of the guy, and it's like I was laughing, like lying at home, listening lectures alone and laughing out loud. That's so
And
funny.
you're making me want to like go and read a bunch of stuff and listen to a lot of lectures. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, we're gonna have to finish like soon because I
Mhm.
have to take care of the baby.
Yeah, sure. No, no.
But I would like to do this again actually because this was a very
Yeah,
good
we
conversation, and
may
I feel
do.
like we haven't even scratched the surface, man. I mean,
Yeah,
there's so
I
much
guess
more to talk about.
we may certainly do it once a week or even,
We have
even
to
more.
we'll have to do a bunch of them because I think there's a lot of things that we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
Uh,
I also interested, like, if we may read a book, like the same book and probably discuss it.
yeah, yeah,
Some philosophical book. Yeah, just to,
we can
but
certainly
not
do that.
not enough. Like now, I'm a little bit busy. Like in the next few months, I'll like I want to read this book, which we decided to like few times few before we decided to read this book. Pinker, what's his name? Steven Pinker.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We yeah, we'll have to talk about that to see to see if we have come to a decision on that and
yeah, with reading for
formalize
me
it.
it's like so hard since I have like 10-15 books ahead. Like I'm
Oh
thinking, okay,
yeah,
like
you're
there's the
like
whole list and I
with
want
that
to read
block.
them all, and when there's suddenly a new book I need to just include in my list, and it a little bit disturbs my reading schedule. But
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. Okay,
yeah.
we'll figure out a good way to go about it. But yeah, man, is there anything else that you feel that
Yeah, I want to ask about the next topic on Friday. What are we going to discuss? Do you have something in mind?
no, I don't right now. I don't have. What topic are you gonna do for your
I'm like there are two topics on this week. One is solitude, and another is politeness. And actually, like I had some troubles this week. The second meeting was kind of awkward, and I tried
okay,
to introduce these ideas of neurophysiology. We discussed neuroplasticity, and
okay,
at the beginning I turned on the video, and there was like American, this guy Andrew Huberman who was talking about neuroplasticity. And in my club there are people who, some of them know language quite bad, and
uh-huh,
they couldn't understand, and like it turned out in arguing about whether or not it makes sense to watch somebody who speaks fast. And
okay.
so there was some tension, like serious tension.
Serious tension.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
we
man.
decided to choose politeness at the end, like suddenly, because it was
Get
something
it.
that we needed and that was absent in the conversation.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe we'll do politeness. I don't know. Let me think about it. But yeah, perhaps we'll do something like that. Politeness. I'll talk to you a little bit more about
Okay.
what we're
So
gonna do. But yeah, we'll have if anyone's listening to this,
subscribe to our
I expect
channel.
some people are. So
Yeah.
we'll have our regular meeting on Friday, 7 Central Time, and 7 to 9 p.m. And we'll have another discussion. But thanks for doing this with me today, Vladimir. It was a
Yeah.
really
Thank
cool
you.
discussion, and hopefully we can do another one of these soon.
Yeah. And for people, if you have some questions, write them down in comments, and we'll
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
discuss them and touch them later.
good idea. We'll get back to you for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, Bruno. See